So in this session, we're going to have a look at the following areas. So we're going to have a look at document overview, validity properties, document versioning, document supply conditions, manage documents required, and automatic processing. So first of all, let's just have a little brief overview of documents. So types of document. So when we talk about documents, we're talking about safety data sheets, certificates, declarations, specifications, or maybe you've got custom documents such as product specs or certificates of analysis, and these all contain important information which is required to be kept up to date and passed on to your customers. Okay, so printing documents in Formpak. So we do this by generating the document within Formpak, and there's three main areas for printing and generating the documents. So I'm sure you're all familiar with print a document for an item. So with this option, you can print a single document for a label or an item. Adding a company is optional, but it's required if you want to record the supply of the document. And then we've got print documents for a company. So print documents for a company, you can print multiple documents and labels for the same item. And again, a company is required if you want to record the supply. And the documents are generated into a zip file that you can email. And then print documents and labels, so you can print multiple documents and labels for multiple items. Again, company required if you want to record the supply, and the documents are generated into a zip file. So we've had a look at how we print them. So how do we view them? So viewing documents in Formpak. So once we've generated the documents, we might want to see which version of the document's been generated and the date that it was generated, and we can view those details on the item tab on the documents tab. Or alternatively, there are separate areas to view supplied documents. So if we have a look at viewing, so where we can view documents in Formpak, so search for documents, view documents for an item, view documents supplied, and also manage documents required, but we'll come back to that a little later. So in these areas, you can highlight a document to print, add, delete, or reset the version number of the document. So let's have a little look at what we've discussed in Formpak. Let's just go into Formpak. Okay, if I start typing print a document in here, it gives us the three options that we've discussed. So if we just click on print a document for an item, and we'll choose an item to print, choose a favorite one that we usually use, the Trust Burst. Okay, and then we select the type of document, so CLP safety data sheet. Okay, we can see here, so on the screen it states item supply type, and it says sale normal and sample. Okay, and underneath it we can say it says record supply. So if we add a customer, we're going to use our fussy customer. Okay, you can see the record supply changes to yes. So we know the supply of the document is being recorded against the company. So if we print our document, so we're just going to print to PDF, click OK. Okay, so it's all been printed. Record supply of document, yes. Supply of the document has been recorded. Great. Okay, so we want to have a look at that on our item. So this is raw material. So if I view a raw material, okay, and pop it in, pop the code in. And we go on to the Documents tab. So we can see here on the Documents tab that all the documents have been produced, and this is our item here that's been produced. So it's version 7, and also it's got the date as well. So we can view a document for view a document for an item, And we can also view documents in documents applied as well. So that gives us all documents that have been produced. So if we navigate now to view a document for an item, and let's just have a quick look at that. Okay, and we input our citrus burst. Okay, so here are a list of all the documents, and here's our document that we generated, version 7, and it's got today's date. So if we select our item and click print, okay, so it takes us to print a document for an item, and we can select versions. So if we view the versions, we can select just different versions of it, and if we select print, it will generate the historic document. So it brings up the document and it's got a historic watermark through it to let us know that it's a previous version. Okay, so let's close that. We can delete the current version if we wanted to. So you just click delete and yes. Oh, sorry, it's been supplied to a company. And then won't let us because it's already been supplied. Okay, so you can only delete the version of the document if it's not been supplied to a customer. If the supply of the document has been logged against a company that you can't, then you can't delete it. Okay. If you wanted to reset the document, you can do, but I would advise you to use this with extreme caution, resetting documents, because it removes all the documents supplied and it removes the documents required as well. So I would advise against using reset document. The only appropriate use of reset document is if you have a new document for testing and you want to remove the version information from it, which relates to the testing phase of your system, and when you go before you go in live with it. So if you wanted to reset the document, all you do is click reset document, select yes, and then it'll reset the document version for you. Okay, so if we go back into our presentation, okay, so documents are printed in accordance with the behavior and conditions which exist within the software. So these behavior and conditions are properties determined. So are all the properties of the item complete? Does every raw material and formulation have a value for the properties determined on the properties tab in the item? When properties determined equals yes, then it's possible to produce the document. But if properties determined equals no, then this means that some information is incomplete and the document won't generate. Okay, and there's permissions. So there are permissions which relate to print document functions, and the main function permissions are available in permissions on operations. And permissions which relate to specific documents are also available in the permissions tab of view or modify a document type. Okay, suitability check. So suitability check is optional and not all our customers have or use suitability, but it is possible to require that a suitability check is passed before the document can be generated. So this option is view a document in document supply condition, and does the document require a suitability check? So if it equals yes, then the document will not be produced and the check fails. And then importantly, validity property. So I'm sure we've all had that really annoying message when we try to print a document and it's telling us it's not valid because we've missed off a flashpoint or a recommend use for the safety data sheet. Okay. So validity property. So in the document supply conditions, we can see the validity property. So for the CLP safety data sheet, it's the CLP and 2 SDS valid. So it's this one here that's highlighted. So the validity property is a custom property, which itself can be viewed in viewer property. And each document has its own validity property, and you can view them in viewer document supply condition. Okay, and if you want to actually have a look at the property, just navigate to viewer property, input the property. For the CLP SDS, it's the CLP and 2 SDS valid. select the calculation tab, and you can see the calculation refers to the state of the item, if it's a liquid or solid, and additionally its flammability. So it's pointing towards a flash point and recommended use. So please do not make any changes to the existing validity properties because it will just cause your documents not to print. So we don't advise you to make any changes to those. Okay, so we've looked at validity property. Now let's have a look at versioning properties. So different documents have different versioning properties, which may be viewed via viewer document type. Safety data sheet has lots of versioning properties, and we can see all these versioning properties. So if any of the values of the version properties change in the item, a new document is triggered, a new version of the document is triggered. And you can add additional versioning properties, so new versions are triggered if the value of those properties change. So I've actually added appearance onto the document type on my system. So when I change appearance in any of my items, it's going to generate a new version of the document for me. Okay, so also in viewer document type, there's a permissions tab as well, which you can specify who can print the document. And there's also a note section. So if you have a custom document and you want to include notes of any changes, then you can add them there if you wanted to. Okay, so document supply condition. So let's have a look at document supply conditions, and these conditions allow you to specify the circumstances under which specific documents are updated and will be triggered to be resupplied to customers. So documents can have a unique supply condition. So for example, if you require safety data sheets to be resupplied in a different circumstance to a specification or a certificate, you can do. And you can add new document supply conditions and select the document you want to supply the condition to. Most commonly, it's the safety data sheet. Okay, so we can see automated supply for sales. So all you do is select from the drop-down menu in the system, for example, the document should be automatically supplied for first sales and resupply, or you can do it for just resupply only if you wanted to. So automated supply for samples, it can be exactly the same as sales if you wish. The conditions can be different if you wanted to for items sold and sampled, but it's entirely up to you. So supply an item period, if you want the document to be supplied or resupplied based on sales or samples, then just enter how recently in months from the present that you want that. Okay, and then unsupplied document revision period. If you want the document to be resupplied, if the document was revised within a given period from when it was supplied, even if it's not been sold or sampled, then enter that period in months in there. Okay, and then unrevised document resupply period. If you want to resupply the documents which are still being sold or sampled when the revision has not changed, you can enter a number of months here. So the effect is that document will be resupplied at a time interval, even though the document will be the same, but it's just useful if you need to supply the documents annually. Okay, and then item validity property, which we had a look at. So what property should trigger the change for the documents to be supplied? Okay, and then document require suitability check. So the default is no. But you can change it to yes if you require suitability check to be performed before the document is produced. Just add the appropriate details and save. Okay, so please be aware that ideally sales and sample information are required to use this feature fully. But sales information is usually supplied from an ERP system or production system via integration. But if your system's not integrated sales or sample information and you want to automate resupply of your documents, you can choose the options on screen so that your documents are updated to your customers, even though that you don't have direct sales data in Formpak. So you just might want to make sure that's set up prior to any labeling manual changes or updates, or any information that is updated that you think may create a change to the previously supplied documentation. Okay, so after setting up the document supply condition, we need to determine which documents need to be resupplied. And to do this, we can go in Manage Documents Required. So if we just go back into Formpak. Okay, and just start typing Manage Documents Required. Okay, so we know Manage Documents Required manages which documents are required to be resupplied. And we know Formpak automatically creates new versions of previously created documents. So when version and property values are updated, the documents are created. And documents can be required by manually being triggered by choosing Print Later from Print a Document for an item, or setting up a document supply condition, which is what we've just done. We've just had a look at that. Okay, so to manage documents required, it allows you to find documents which need to be supplied and resupplied. So you can do that in here. And here you can search by company, you can search by party group, you can search by item, cross-reference, application, even document type, or different combinations of these fields. It's entirely up to you. And it's also possible to view documents with different statuses, ready or invalid. So if we just click search and see if we can view some results. Okay, so we've got some results in here. Okay, so the results just show a list of documents that need to be sent. And you can select them and you can perform the following actions on them. So you can reset. So this will just actually reset the search. So if you just click search again, it'll just bring up the documents for us in view detail. So if we just highlight one, click on one, view detail. So it'll just list the document requirements and the supply conditions and the date and things it's required by. Okay, if we go to print, then it'll just print to a physical printer and it logs the supply of the documents to the customer. If you print to PDF, so it'll generate the PDF files and it also logs the supply of documents to the customer as well. And if you've got multiple documents selected for customers and parties, then multiple zip files will be created and each one represents one customer. Okay, there is also an option to email documents, and this emails all the documents in a zip file to one recipient, but that needs to be set up in the actual application itself. So assume supplied just marks the document as supplied. So yeah, okay, there we go. It's assume it's applied and it'll appear in the documents list for the company. Okay, you can also suppress it as well. So the document, you can suppress a document from being printed. Okay, if you wanted to, and it won't appear. The system will only trigger the document as required again if the item is resupplied to the company. And you can also remove it. So you can remove the document from the documents required list, and the system will trigger the document as required again if it fulfills the document supply conditions. Okay, so set as required. So set the document as required, and that shows it needs to be resupplied. Okay, so if we just demonstrate it in action, so if we navigate to modify raw material, okay, and we're going to use our citrus burst. And we're going to change the appearance property. Okay, so as I added that to the versioning properties. Okay, so we change it to yellow and just click calculate now. And then we save it. And then we navigate to automatic processing. Okay, so automatic processing ensures the properties of raw materials and formulations are always up to date. And it allows the impact of these updates to generate the revised documents for customers. So in automatic processing, we select revised documents and determine documents required. and then we just click start. Okay, hopefully it won't take too long because we've only made a small change. And the system considers the updated properties of items and it checks if they're important for documents which have previously been generated. So the important properties are the versioning properties of the documents which we looked at in viewer document type. And if a version property is changed for an item, then the system creates a new version of the document. So we've modified the appearance of an item and we've already set up our supply condition. So setting the automatic processing for documents will just push the system to see the changes and a new version of the document will be made. Okay, so let's go back into manage document required and see if we can find our new version of our document. Okay, just click, we put our item in, just click search. There we go. It's given us a new version of our item for us to send to our customer. Okay, so all you do is you just click on it to select it and you can print to PDF. Just click yes and OK. And so it gives us the option to download the zip file, or it also gives us an option to email it. So you can email them, however, your email settings need to be configured within Formpak in Manage Application Settings. And there is a support article called Manage Settings for emailing documents on the Support Centre. So if we just have a quick look at that, I'll just show you that. Okay. So just type email in here. I think everybody knows how to use a support centre. If you're not actually aware, if you need any help with any particular area in Formpak or you need a bit of information, you just type the area of the word that you need help with, like email, and it'll bring up all the relevant support articles for you. So manage settings for emailing documents. So this is the instructions on how you can set that up. You might need a bit of assistance from your IT department as it requires server and password information. But once you set it up, you can email documents from print a document for an item, print documents for a company, and print documents and labels. So if we just have a look at the application settings. Okay, just type email in here. So this is the information that you'd need to pop in there. Okay, there's also lots of application settings. So there's application settings for documents. So if we have a quick look at those. Okay, so automated document supply for inactive items, usually set to no, but you can do if you want to. Include codes in documents. So, you might want to include the internal code in your documents. Most companies don't want to display internal codes on documents, so it's usually set to no. Show historic warning on documents. So we had a quick look at that in previously supplied documents because they'll have a watermark stating historic. And we had a look at it in viewer document for an item. So you can turn that off if you wanted to. Require cross-reference when a document is printed for a company. So usually set to yes, but entirely up to you how you want to set that up. And enable permission to print invalid documents. So you can print invalid documents only if you have the relevant operation permission applied as well. Okay, and there's also a fun new feature. So in document options, so you have the option now to edit the banding on the safety data sheets. So there's a new development which involves a property which calculates the components listed in section 3 of the safety data sheet. As this setting applies to every safety data sheet, it's likely to generate a new version for lots of items. So it might take a bit of time to calculate. So just be mindful of that when you're applying the banding. Okay, so if we print a document for an item, and let's see how it usually looks in section 3. So if we just go to print a document for an item, and we'll put our item in. So it's a formulation, it's a winter frost. There we go. Okay, And we're going to go for the CLP safety data sheet banded. Just print to PDF, click OK. Okay, if we scroll down to section 3, we can see that the banding is 1 to 5. Okay, so we can change that. So if we go back into the application settings, and we're going to change the banding. So at the minute it's 0.11, so we're going to add a 3 in there. So now it's 135. And if we save that, okay, and then we'll need to recalculate our item. So you would do that in automatic processing and select property recalculation, but we'll just recalculate one item because otherwise it might take a bit too long. So if we just go to modifier formulation, and put our item in. Oh, not that one. That one. Okay, so we just need to calculate now. Okay, and then we just save it. And then we need to print our document for an item. We'll just re-input the item just to refresh it. Okay, and then print to PDF. Click OK. Okay, we can see it's generated our safety data sheet. So we just scroll down to section 3 and we can see the banding's changed now. So instead of it being from 1 to 5, it's 3 to 5 or 1 to 3. So it just makes the banding a bit smaller and a bit easier. Okay, so originally there was one entry list property for each safety data sheet. So the CLP SDS uses the CLP SDS in details property for exact and banded documents, but now the exact safety data sheet continues to use the CLP SDS in details, but the banded uses the CLP SDS in details banded. So you might not have the property on your system yet, but if you do want to check, okay, just go to view a property. You can use search for a property, but I find it's a bit easier to view a property. There's a system sort of prompts you, so if you start typing it, it'll bring it up. There we go. So if it is on your system, it'll appear like that, CLP, yes, it's in details, but you might not have it on your system. So if you don't, and you want to change the banding, just give us drop us a message in the support inbox and let us know, because you might require the actual properties and you might require the updated version of the documents as well, so you're able to change the banding and print the document.